Hi, I'm Chris Stirewalt, and it's time for Power Play. Play that funky music. Let me tell you something, Internet. Trump gonna Trump. That is one thing that you know that is going to happen. We have seen a remarkably, we talk about it, chaotic or a wild Republican race. Well, the stuff that the frontrunner's saying is wild, but the race has not been chaotic. In fact, if you throw out a couple of junky polls, you get rid of the internet polls and all that other stuff, you look at good surveys, Donald Trump's share of the vote has been incredibly stable in a bandwidth that even Mitt Romney would have envied in 2012. Between 23 and 29% of the vote, goes up a little, goes down a little bit, but the Trump Tower remains the same. How does that work? People who know, or should know, or we'll find out if they don't, include Holly Shulman. She is a Democratic strategist. That means you can hire her and she will try to beat Republicans in elections. And she used to be at the DNC. And I want you to meet Emily Jashinsky. Did I say that correctly?
You did. I
got feeling fly. She is with the it's the Young American Foundation?
Young Americas.
Yeah, Young Americas. I knew it was the Young Americas. I knew that because that's Reagan Ranch and all that good stuff.
Yes, sir. That's right.
That means that she is a Republican. If you couldn't put that together, the Democrats do not keep the Reagan Ranch. Okay, so here's the deal, and start with you, Emily.
Sure.
Donald Trump supporters love Trump. They do not like anyone else. They don't like the media. They like Trump, and they're not for turning. Is that share of the vote going to be sufficient to take him to the nomination?
Well, no, but I think this is a really interesting question. I'm so glad you asked it because what's so interesting about Trump and what I think is lost in this whole conversation is that his share of the vote is coming from everywhere. It's not just coming from the right. So if you look and dig into polls, you'll see that there are polls that say 19% of Democrats are voting for Trump or say they're voting for Trump. 1 in 3 independents are voting for Trump, which is equal to the amount of Republicans who say they're voting for Trump. So he has support coming from all over the place. 68% of people who support him say they'll follow him if he ends up running as a third-party candidate. So while I don't think mathematically the share of the vote will carry him, it's really fascinating to see actually how broad his base is across the spectrum.
That's right. Now, normally we had gotten hackneyed. We had gotten too used to talking about the Republican Party and what the Republican base was. Yeah. So the Republican base is Christian, conservative, evangelical, and it's these voters. This is the Republican base. This is how you win. Donald Trump says, actually, I got a different base. I got a base you might like. It's over here. And it is moderates, liberals. Now, we do know that it's older. We do know that it's whiter. But we know that it is, from an ideological perspective, broader. What's that about? Is it about him? Is it about response to Obama? What's the deal?
I think, one thing to be certain is that he's running the Republican primary. So let's just start there. So when you look at likely voters in the Republican primary, maybe your base is a little different this year. Maybe you're looking at New Hampshire versus Iowa. Maybe you're seeing some differences there between the states. But he's leading in every poll. And, last time we saw a lot of up and down. In 2012, we saw, Mitt Romney was up, Herman Cain was up. But we haven't seen that this time. And I think part of it is Trump has said that he'll do whatever it takes to win that primary. And so I think we're seeing a little of that. And I think if you were to see him slip, he says whatever it takes, however much money it takes, whatever I can do. And I can't say I'm disappointed about that situation. But I do think we have a really different race this year just because, the front runner isn't going to drop out for anything he does.
Okay. Now, what about this? When we talk about the Trump supporters who say, and you're referencing here, USA Today poll, USA Today Monmouth, USA Today somebody, sorry, higher education institution, but the USA Today poll that said that more than half, 68%, I think, of Trump supporters say they'd follow him into, now that works out to be about 8% of the vote. But it is enough of a vote, it is enough a share of the vote that it would keep your party out of the White House for at least another 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely it would. I mean, I don't think we'll see that at all. And I think what's really interesting is that when you take, we're talking about how Republicans are so supportive of Trump. Well, what's been really frustrating is that the Republican bench is so deep and so many other people are splitting their support between so many other people. So the real story to me, the headline through this whole thing has been 2/3 of Republican voters don't support Trump. And that's lost. And nobody ever talks about the fact that the bulk of Republican voters are in fact saying they're against Trump and they're supporting other candidates.
So you have Trump newly or a reborn Republican who is using, basically, I've used the analogy of a leveraged buyout, a leveraged buyout of the Republican Party. He has a small but stable number of shares. He goes into the boardroom. All the other shares are divided up around the table, and he's thinking his are enough that he can leverage to take over his party. To this point, will the rest of the Republican Party get together and say, we are going to push back on this bid, we're going to get behind a candidate, be it Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio or somebody?
Ben Carson is the only one that has equal support to him. So maybe all the rest can drop out, and we'll see a Ben Carson-Trump face-off, and we'll see what that turns out.
If Ben Carson's current trajectory were to keep up, he would not be in the race in another 6 years.
The candidate is like barely in double digits, so maybe you can do that, and we see who they rally around, but it's going to take a lot to get around one single other person that's not Trump because of the deficit.
You're just hoping it lasts as long as local Democrat hopes for a long, vicious Republican primary. You heard it here first, folks. Ladies, thank you very much for making time for us. And you, Internet, thank you as ever for making time for us. And we hope you come back for more Power Play real soon.